Hello there, everybody. This is Jared Britton here at PatSnap. I want to welcome you all to today's webinar. Today we're going to be going over a few of the basics of PatSnap. And just on a quick side note, this is the first webinar that I've been doing since the holiday break, and it's also on a completely new system. I've never used BrightTalk before, so forgive me if there are any hiccups moving through today's session, but hopefully everything runs fairly smoothly. So essentially, today we're going to be going through, like I said, a few of the basics of the PatSnap system. But before we get into everything, let me know a little bit. I want to let you know a little bit about who I am. It says it's a little bit out of date. It says I'm a technical specialist here at PatSnap. I'm actually head of product support here at PatSnap now. So I've been working with our customers here at PatSnap for quite some time now in order to ensure success when it comes to PatSnap. So using PatSnap in things like product strategy, tech scouting, SEO searching, competitive intelligence, all these kind of very businessy words that you can see here. That's kind of what I do on a day-to-day basis, is making sure that my customers are successful using the system. Now, because we're going to go through the basics today, I haven't prepared a very kind of intense set of slides to go through here. So we're really going to be looking at 6 main points. So number one is how to access PatSnap. So if you've purchased PatSnap, we'll go over how we actually get onto the system. We'll be going over what we cover in terms of data, how to do a PatSnap basic search, how to understand your initial search results, how to refine those results, and reading an individual pattern. So those are 6 main things that we'll cover. But because this is the first time that we'll be going through PatSnap after the holidays and in quite some time, I do want to kind of show you a couple of different things that we've updated very recently that hopefully should be very, very interesting for you. So that's what we'll be covering. Again, if any of you have any particular questions or anything like that, please feel free just to shoot any questions across. I believe there's a function for you to ask questions, and I'll have my eye on that moving through the webinar today. So do ask any questions in there, and I will do my best to answer those as we move through. Otherwise, I'll make sure to kind of get to those at the end of the webinar. So that's pretty much everything I want to go over now. Let's go ahead and start sharing my screen. So you should be looking at the screen share now. Hopefully everything's large and clear enough for you to be able to see. If it's not, I believe there are Zoom functions for you to use on BrightTalk. If not, again, let me know in the questions, and I will kind of address that. So what we're looking at right now is kind of what, if you've used PatSnap before, you'll be fairly familiar with. If you've never used PatSnap, this is essentially the first screen that you see when you log in. It's what we call our field search, and it's the way that most of the searches PatSnap tend to begin. Now, one of the main updates that's actually happened fairly recently is a simple search update. So many of the people that use PatSnap aren't really interested in all of the different bits and bobs that you can search through. So we do have a simple search area that you can kind of put pretty much any information in. This box here is the same as the all box on the advanced search, and it's basically where you can put, you know, as you can see, a keyword, company name, pattern number, pretty much anything. It's a bit like the Google search, but for PatSnap. But typically when you first log in, you'll be seeing the advanced search. Now, on this page, there's a few things to mention. Number one, as I mentioned, we'll work out how we actually log in the first place. So if we go ahead and have a look at the login page, we just need to go to analytics.patsnap.com. Hopefully you can see that in my URL up there. Here are my details. Obviously you can't see any of that, luckily. So it's just put your email address in, put in the password that we pre-generate for you, and you'll be able to log into the platform. So once you're in, like I said, this is the very first page that you get presented with. Now, on the field search, there are lots of different things we can do. We can search the all box, which will search like the simple search for absolutely everything. But everything from title abstract claims to independent claims to applications, publications, priority dates, patent numbers, classifications, assignee names, addresses, pretty much any aspect of patents that you want to look for, we can find. Now, something that's worth noting on the assignee name here, the original assignee search and the standardized assignee search and current assignee search. Now, those 3 different things that we can see there are different in their functions. Essentially, when you're looking for a company name on PatSnap, so if we just say, for example, Apple, if we're looking for Apple, when we look for that company name, we're not only looking at patents that currently belong to Apple, but we'll also be looking at patents that were originally Apple's. So patents that, for example, they filed and then sold. I don't think there's too many of those, but there's plenty of patents that Apple didn't file originally, but they now own. So we have assignee transfer records on PatSnap, and we'll be able to track, who a patent belongs to over its lifespan. So when I put that word in there, it's not only looking at who is currently the assignee, but it's also looking at who was originally the assignee and who, as a standardized assignee, might have slight variations and spelling differences. For example, if I put Apple Inc. here, it's not only going to look for Apple Inc., it's going to look for Apple Computer Inc. and Apple Incorporated and Apple Full Stop Inc. and Apple Full Stop Inc., comma, and all these different slight variations that you can find. So it's really, really smart when it's looking for the assignee names. Just a quick note, again, before we actually conduct a search, I want to talk you through a little bit about the data that we have. So in terms of patent data, PatSnap covers many, many different jurisdictions. I'll just show you very briefly our data coverage. Right now, we're sitting on about 120 million patents worldwide. We cover all of the main databases that you can find within the platform. So if you want to look into a little bit closer, then do reach out. We can give you a little bit more information on exactly what we cover. But our updates are weekly, and we cover all of the main 20 different jurisdictions and much more beyond that. So let's actually conduct a search now. Something that I want to kind of go over a little bit, just to kind of show you a little bit around our capabilities in terms of what we can do with queries. Now, this area, like I said, the field search is one of many different kinds of searches. So we also have command search, bulk search, semantic, expand search. These kind of 4 or 5 main different areas that you can see up here, I would say are some of the best kind of capabilities of PatSnap when you're kind of searching for basic patents. But today, I'm going to stick mainly in this area. I do want to kind of show off a little bit about semantic and expand, but I'll do that a little bit later on. So I'm going to construct what I would say is a medium level query. And then I'll explain what I've done, and hopefully it'll kind of give you a bit of a better idea as to what we can do with queries in PatSnap. So give me one moment. I'm afraid I'm terrible at typing and talking at the same time. Okay, lovely. So what you can see I've done here is a nice long query. I say nice long query, it pales in comparison to some, but essentially I've constructed what we call a boolean search. Now, for those of you that are a little less familiar with things that work around semantic searches, we have a box or a container, and we have a cardboard or paperboard. So what we've essentially got is the ability for it to kind of choose between different words. We know that cardboard boxes are not the only way that we describe cardboard boxes. You might also call them a paperboard container or paperboard box or cardboard container, right? So we want to give it different options, which is why we've got box or container within brackets and cardboard or paperboard within brackets with an and in between. You can see that I put my operators, or we call operators here, within capital letters. That's simply just, for me, best practice is to keep it nice and neat. We also have not, steel, or carbon fiber. So there's 2 things to note about steel or carbon fiber here. Well, particularly about the carbon fiber area. So first things first, we've got quote marks around carbon fiber. This means that we're going to be searching for those words as is within the brackets. So as they appear within the brackets, as I've kind of, in the order that I've put them. That means that we won't be looking for steel fiber or steel carbon or whatever. We'll be looking for particularly carbon fiber. Secondly, if you are listening, I believe at least a couple of people here are from the UK, you will have noticed that I have indeed spelled fiber wrong. If you're watching from the US, you notice that I spelled fiber correctly. Well, there's obviously differences between languages sometimes, even if it's the quote-unquote same language. So with fiber here, I spelt it the American spelling. As much as, I must apologize and humbly say sorry to the Queen, I have used the American spelling because obviously within patents, that's going to be a lot more of a common spelling. If I want to address that, what I might do is just write another or with the other version of carbon fiber. There's a couple of other things I can do, like wildcards or fuzzy logic, which I'm not going to go into too much today. But there are different things that we can do around recognizing that there's differences in ability for, or differences in language and spelling. What we can do, by the way, is kind of support you with a few of these different things. So before I move on and actually conduct a search, I want to show you a different couple of things that will really help you if and when you come to use PatSnap. So number one, we've got a walk me through area down on the bottom right-hand side here. If I click on this area, what you'll notice is it kind of gives you a few different options. You've got different PDFs for some guides. You've got a video. So if you're not tired of my voice after today, then you can have a look at the landscaping video and we'll tell you a little bit about landscaping. And that all opens up within the browser so you can see what's going on. And again, apologies if you heard that, but that's if you're not tired of my voice, then you certainly will be after the landscaping video. And again, introduction to basic searching and these kind of different walkthroughs, you can have a look here. And of course, we have plenty of recorded webinars too. So there's lots and lots of different support for you. If you're looking in terms of particularly what different operators we can use within a search, then look at the keyword helper here, or sorry, the search helper. The search helper is essentially an area where we can show you all the different fields. So on the field search, we haven't got absolutely every single different field. We've put most of them. If you want to do a little bit more or use a little bit more detail, then we've got a few of these different search fields that you can find in the search helper. So without further ado, let's go ahead and construct a search, or actually do this search, and see what we get back. Again, anybody that's joined since I first started, please feel free to ask questions in the questions option, and I believe I can get to them during the webinar, or indeed definitely after the webinar. So now that we've got this search result, hopefully you noticed that that actually came about really, really quickly. Right now we're sitting on about 155,000 different patents. But PatSnap has reduced this down to 72 individual different documents, or 72,000, sorry, individual different patent family representatives. And essentially what we've got here is the ability now to look through these results, to refine and to understand them and kind of look at these individual documents. But before I do that, what I might do actually is click on the settings here. So if I click on the settings, you can see that I can change things, for example, like the kind of fields that I've got displaying, the different search preferences that are available within PatSnap. So whether we're doing translation, whether we're grouping or not, how many records we've got on a page, these different things. Now, once we've done this, we might now want to start refining. Now that we've understood our patterns, we've got the right columns on here. So if we want to refine, there's different things that we might want to go about doing. So when we're refining, we might want to look at different companies. So we can see on the left-hand side here, and forgive me for the obscenely large scroll bar here. I'm not sure exactly why it's so large on my computer, but there we go. We've got the top assignees that are coming back within the search results. So we can see the top result is Procter & Gamble. We've got International Paper, Container Corporation of America, so on and so forth. So these are the top organizations who have patents relating to this current search result. If I want to look at more, then I can easily look at more. Just to kind of demonstrate a little bit about our standardized assignee, this is where we've grouped them up a little bit. So for example, if Procter & Gamble file as Procter & Gamble, or Procter & Gamble with the ampersand, then we will kind of merge them into the same place. Just like Apple, Apple Inc., Apple Incorporated, so on and so forth. So standardized assignee is a little bit kind of neater. Something that is actually fairly new to PatSnap is the standardized assignee type. If I go into that area, what you can see is that we are actually breaking down now our organizations or companies or people or academics and governments and so on and so forth. So we can see that the vast majority of these patents are coming from what we will say companies. We've got some that are coming from people. So if we see, for example, let me see if we've got anything, Christopher Lipper here at the top. Christopher Lipper is more than likely an individual and not an organization, and therefore will be filed under the person area. So we can now break down our companies by their type. Where are they filing from? Or sorry, where are they filing to? So where are these patents? The patent type, if we're looking at applications and so on and so forth. But one of my favorite areas here is looking at kind of IPCs and CPCs. Now being able to break this information down by the type of patent in terms of the classification. It's one of my favorite ways of working, especially when I'm doing patent searches. So we can use all of this. Now, As well as providing an analytic, it also provides us a way of refining down the results. So if I were to click on B31B1/00 here right now, then it's going to reduce my search result down to just this CPC. If I wanted to tick multiple things, so I want to tick the top 5, for example, I can now tick the top 5, click on refine, and it's going to refine my result down to exactly whatever I've selected. Or if I want to clear everything, I can. Now, this is kind of the very first analytic that you might come across on PatSnap. There's other areas, however, that I think are really interesting in terms of analytics when you're looking at a large search result. For example, this area up here, Analyze Pattern. If I click in this area, what you'll notice is that there are going to be several tiles, 6 tiles of different graphs. So these different graphs are obviously real time. They are automatically selected for you, and you can go in and kind of click into them in a bit more of a, I guess, selective manner. So if I click on application trend now, we're able to look at the exact application trend of patterns in this area. If I mouse over this graph, you'll be able to see the different kind of data points. And if I find something particularly interesting, like why was there a dip in 2008, I can click on that data point and open it out into a separate tab and view that result a little bit more closely. So that's an option. So if I go back to the overview, you'll notice that there are certain graphs here that might be more interesting to you or less interesting to you. For example, I doubt many people are really using IPCs and CPCs, either using one or the other. So what we might want to do now is go into our settings here at the top again. We can change what kind of graphs we're getting. So I'm not really, I've moved to CPCs myself now, so I'm going to take top IPCs out of there. And maybe I'm more concerned or more interested or curious about, let's say, who are the top inventors in the area. And I'd care less about the top assignees, but I really want to know about the top standardized assignees. Or if I think the assignee, the IPC is too close, or the CPC is too close, then I can say, hey, rather, I'm going to go for the CPC subclass. So I can change exactly what I want, hit save, and it's going to search my results. It's going to show me my results. So now we can see, go back to the area down here, and my graphs will have changed. This is actually, to be honest, this is something that I've not actually had a chance to play around with yet. So I just wanted to go and try that out for myself, as well as showing it to you on today's webinar. Now that we've had a look at all these different things, we've learned how to refine down, so on and so forth. Let's go and have a look at an individual pattern and see what we can find. So we've got number 1 here. It seems like a fairly interesting document to bring up. Let's go and have a look at the compound container. So I just click on the title, and it will show me the individual pattern view. So now that we're in this area, there's lots of different things that we can have a look at. Obviously, there's tons and tons of data on the screen. How do we make sense of it? So the first thing is publication application number, publication application date, all at the top here. If you want to know about the priority data, you can find that all here. Everything in blue is obviously hyperlinked. Now, if you are lucky enough, or you have purchased Insights, then what you might want to do is go and have a look at this organization within Insights. So there's a little button here that you can click on. If we click on this, it'll take us to Insights to look at this organization within the Insights platform. So we can get some really, really nice, interesting analytics on this whole organization from Insights just by clicking on that button. It's really, really easy, really quick. So that's an option. We might go down and have a look at the abstract. As you can see, we've automatically highlighted some of the words that you've looked for. If you want to look at the highlighting tool, it's just located up here. We've kind of hidden it, but it's a new highlighting tool. We've just improved it. So if I want to look at the different instances of cardboard, I can just press the down button, kind of view all the different versions or locations of this particular word. I'll move through to the claims. I can have a look at the claims. We can see that for the most part, the word container is the reason that this has come back. At some point, somewhere in the pattern, it must mention cardboard or paperboard somewhere. I haven't specified for its title, abstract, or claims, or whatever. We do also have a claim tree. The claim tree here will show you the dependent and independent claims against each other. You can minimize it so that it's just showing you the independent claims. You can expand it so that it's showing you the dependent claims too. Obviously, you've got a description here on the left-hand side. And finally, you also have the more like this. So the more like this is a really quick and really easy way of showing you other patterns out there which are verbally very similar to this one. Translate these quickly, we can see that these are verbally very similar documents to this one. So it's just a really quick, really easy way of understanding similar patterns. Now, if we move across, we can have a look at the dual view. The dual view is essentially an area where we can see both the pattern PDF and the full text at the same time. So this is obviously very useful when we want to understand, for example, let's say in this particular case, I'm curious as to where number 15 was mentioned. So if I click on to our highlighting tool, and I'm going to put 15 in purple, and at that point, I can find out where the word 15 has been mentioned or where the number 15 has been mentioned. So you've got to skip through all the 150 claims, but it will show me where fig 15 is and what these different things are and so on and so forth. So it makes it very, very easy to look through an entire document and very quickly read and analyze the criteria there. Now, moving across again, we can look at the citations. Well, the citations are going to be obviously just normal citations. It's going to be a list here of citations. Apologies, my computer is slowing down a little bit at the moment. Just give it a moment. Let's just reload the page in a moment. There we go. So the different citations of the pattern, cites and cited bys. But the more interesting thing here would be to look at the citation map. So whilst you have the ability to add all these patterns directly to the workspace and do some analysis on them from there, we can open up a citation map. Now, if we open up the citation map, it will give us the ability to look at these different documents, understand them at a bit closer level. So if we want to, we can click on them and open the information out for that pattern. If you click the little plus icon next to that document, it'll open up the next generation. Obviously, everything on the left-hand side is back citation, everything on the right-hand side is forward citation. If it's got a little red X over it, or a kind of red icon, that means expired. Now, it's all well and good seeing pattern numbers, but you might want to view this by something else. So we can, instead of showing by generation, we can show by, let's say, assignee. So we can see who are the assignees citing these documents. Expand them out. And then once we've found the patterns that are of interest, again, if we want to, we can go in and add those to the workspace, or we can export them, do whatever we need to with them. We can group them by simple family or look at the whole patterns, InfoDoc family's worth of citations. So there's really, really loads of different things that we can do in terms of understanding our citations. And that's all in the citation map, which will be in a separate kind of window. Next pillar that we've got on here is the pattern family. So we can understand all the different versions of this pattern as it exists throughout the world. The ticks reference the priority data here. We've got different assignee names, different inventor names, different classifications, abstracts, legal statuses, and you can understand how each of these documents compares with each of its kind of family members. And again, each of these can be opened out separately, exported, added to a workspace. We can even reduce it back to the simple family or the InfoDoc family if you'd like to. Oops. Finally, we've also got the legal information of this individual pattern. So we can understand the legal status as it is from the USPTO, in this case. expired due to non-payment. It's now invalidated or invalid. And here's the information according to Infodoc. Personally, I've always found the Infodoc a little easier to read because, it kind of shows you in a bit more of a timeline basis. But we give you enough information so you can be absolutely clear. If there was any indeed litigation or licensing on this document, we can tell you about that. But in this particular case, there is no litigation or licensing information on this document. We'll tell you also on the search list on the right-hand side here. And finally, if this is indeed a pledge patent as well. So we've got information on all of that as and when it's applicable. So now that we've done all of those different things, we have the ability to work out if or not this has been an interesting patent. If indeed this was an interesting patent, we might do a couple of things. We might share it. If I click on share, it will copy a link to my clipboard. That link will be able to go to anyone. So if I open up a new window here and paste in this link, essentially this link can go to anybody, even if they're not a PatSnap subscriber, and they'll be able to open up this patent, have a look through the document, and understand it at a full and kind of minute level of detail without having to log in. So if you want to share your work with other people, then you have the ability to do that. So that's the share. You can obviously email as well, which is much like the share, except it's got an email function on it. You can download the PDF if you want to. Finally, the most interesting thing here is add to workspace. So I can add this patent to a workspace. If I click add to workspace, we'll, let's say, create a new workspace. Let's call it Webinar Tuesday. And we'll call our new folder folder 1 because I'm not feeling particularly imaginative today. So we've got folder 1 here. And now this patent is saved to folder 1 on PatSnap. We've got now the ability, if we want to go to that workspace and to add other patents onto that workspace. So I click on add to workspace from our search results. It will also add these patents to that workspace. I can even automatically update that workspace based on this query. To navigate to that workspace, I can mouse over my email address in the top right-hand corner and click on workspace. And you'll see here that there's lots of different things that we can have a look at. We've got Tuesday's webinar, where we've got our automatically updating workspace. And from there, of course, there's loads of different things that we can do. So other than that, those are all the basics of PatSnap. I don't want to go too much into the workspaces today because that's part of the advanced onboarding webinar. But hopefully this has been interesting to you. If indeed you do have any questions, I haven't seen any questions just yet. Let me know via the kind of Q&A functions that you can see up there. But other than that, that's pretty much everything. So I'll thank you all very, very much for coming along. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope to be working with you all very, very soon. Until next time, thank you very much, and take care.